Well, hey, everybody. It's Tuesday. You know what that means. It's story time again. But before we get to today's story, I want to remind you that this Thursday is the communion service here at the port, 7 o'clock. We hope you'll come out and share the Lord's Supper. It'll be a short service, so please come and share the Lord's Supper with us together as the family that we are. And then on Friday is Good Friday, of course, and the Community Good Friday service this year is going to be held out at the Southeastern Baptist Youth Camp. And we hope you'll join us out there at 7 o'clock as we get together as the community of believers to worship. And don't forget, Resurrection Sunday is this coming Sunday. And we have 3 times to come and worship, 8, 9:30, and 11. So it's time that you come back home. If you haven't been back with us yet, we hope to see you soon. So come on home. We'll be looking for you. Well, my story today comes from a book called The Tales of Three Trees. It's an ancient folklore story. The author is unknown, but it's a good story that I wanted to share with you for this Resurrection Sunday coming up. It goes like this. Once upon a time, on a mountaintop, 3 little trees stood and dreamed of what they would become after they grew up. The first little tree looked at the stars twinkling above in the sky like diamonds and said, "I want to hold treasures. I want to be covered with gold and filled with precious stones when I grow up. I will be the most beautiful treasure chest in all of the world." The second little tree looked at the small stream that went out to the ocean. "I want to be the strongest sailing ship in the world," said the second little tree, "when I grow up." And the third little tree looked down into the valley where all the people were, and they were so busy in the hustle and bustle of life, and said, "I don't want to be taken down from this mountaintop at all. I want to stay here. I want to grow tall, so tall that when people see me, they will raise their eyes to heaven and think of God. I want to be the tallest tree in the world." That's my dream. Years passed, and the trees grew in the sun and the rain, and they became very tall. But one day, 3 woodcutters climbed up the mountain. The first woodcutter began chopping on the first tree. The tree fell. The tree said, "Hey, now I'm on my way to becoming that treasure chest. The best treasure chest, the most beautiful treasure chest in all of the world." The second woodcutter began chopping on the second tree, and that tree fell too. And the tree said, "Now I'm on my way to becoming the strongest sailing ship that will sail all over the world in that big, big ocean." The third woodcutter cut down the third tree. The third tree's heart sunk, no longer pointing to heaven as it fell. And it was sad. No one will ever look up to the mountaintop and see me again. Well, the first tree was taken to the carpenter's shop, but no treasure chest was made from it. Instead, a feeding trough for animals. No treasure will ever be in me, only hay, the first tree thought to itself. The second tree was taken to a shipyard. instead of becoming a strong sailing ship, it became a small fishing boat that would only hold smelly fish, too small and weak to sail out into the ocean. I will never become that important ship that I wanted to dream to be. The third tree was cut into beams, strong beams that piled up in a lumberyard and forgotten about. All I ever wanted was to stay on top of the mountain and point to God. But that will never happen now. Well, many days and nights passed, and the three trees nearly forgot about their dreams. But one night, in the golden starlight, a woman placed a baby in the first tree. "Wish I could make a cradle out of the feeding trough," the father said, "but this will have to do." "This manger is beautiful," the woman said. And suddenly the first tree knew he was holding the greatest treasure of all, the best treasure in all of the world. One night, a tired traveler and some friends took the second tree, a boat, that smelly fishing boat, out onto a lake. The second that they got out onto the lake, a storm began to blow. It blew and waves crashed against the small fishing boat, but it was sturdy, and it continued to carry these men out further into the lake. The traveler, in fact, felt so safe in this fishing boat that he went to sleep. The second tree was tossed by the wind and the waves in the storm, but safely it got its passengers to their destination after the traveler was wakened by the other men and said, "Peace, be still." Suddenly the second tree knew he was carrying the King of heaven and earth. One Friday, the third tree was startled when the beams that it had been made into were yanked from the pile that were forgotten and was carried out. She was scared to death as she was carried through an angry mob of people, through streets that were crowded with people shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Shuddering when some soldiers took the beams and laid them on the ground and began nailing a man's hands and feet to her. She felt ugly and cruel. But 2 days later, on Sunday morning, when the sun rose and the earth trembled beneath her, the third tree knew that God's love had changed everything. It had made the first tree beautiful. It had made the second tree strong. And every time people thought of the third tree, they would think of God. And that was better than being the tallest tree in the world. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I hope you all have a great day and the rest of the week, and we look forward to seeing you here at the Port on this special Resurrection Week. Take care, everyone.